strength. Unheard voices rise tonight. Let them speak up and shine their light. No more shadows, no more shame. Say the hurt, say the name. They ain't Superman, they're human too, and they need someone to pull them through. We cry in silence, but not tonight. Tonight we scream, we claim the right. Boy or man, hear the plea. Let me feel, let me be me. Unheard no more. We take a stand, not just a burden, not just a man.
He's drowning in a sea of be okay, but who saves the hero at the end of the day? They clap when he stands, not when he breaks. Can't show weakness, too much is at stake. Every boy told not to feel too deep, just holding in, go back to sleep. While fear and doubt eat him alive, and still he smiles to survive. This ain't weakness, this is real. This is asking just to feel. Let the boy cry, let the man rest. Let him breathe and not be less. You say man up, but unheard voices rise tonight. Let them speak, let them shine.
Welcome to the Unheard Voices podcast, where silence ends and the real stories begin. Today, we rip the lid off a subject most are too afraid to touch. This isn't just about growing up, it's about surviving. It's boy and man versus society. And trust me, this fight starts way earlier than you think. So if you're tired of surface-level talk, if you're ready to confront the raw, the real, the unfiltered truth, buckle up. Because this isn't just a conversation. It's a reckoning. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something really heavy. It's a reality many men have shared with us, particularly from some African context. They feel divorce laws are being, well, weaponized, used to strip them of assets they worked hard for.
Yeah.
And it brings up so much raw emotion, you know?
Yeah.
Deep pain. One listener put it very powerfully, saying, "We are left in the ashes, forced to rebuild from nothing while she drives off in the car I paid for, living in the house I built."
That's incredibly stark language.
It really is. So our mission today isn't about taking sides. We're not endorsing any viewpoint here. What we want to do is unpack how this principle, equitable division, which is meant to be fair, distributing marital assets fairly, though not always equally, how that can somehow lead to these really crushing outcomes for some.
Right.
We need to look at the systemic factors involved, using the experiences and research we've gathered. Okay, let's unpack this.
That phrase, left in the ashes, it's tragically spot on for too many people. We are genuinely talking about a profound systemic failure. A situation where a spouse who contributed significantly, often the main earner, ends up, homeless or financially broken after a divorce. It's unbelievable. More than just unfair. It's dehumanizing. We've heard these stories, men in their 50s suddenly having to start all over, sleeping in their cars.
Oh, wow.
Losing businesses they built over a lifetime, their whole identity, their security just gone.
And that contrast you mentioned, seeing the ex-spouse with the house, the car.
Exactly. The visible symbols of his labor, often, while he's facing this immense psychological and economic devastation.
That's where that feeling comes from, isn't it? That perception he loses everything he worked for.
And she gains assets she didn't directly earn.
Yeah. Listeners have called it legalized theft.
And that level of despair, it's terrifying. We know in the most tragic cases, it can even lead people to take their own lives.
It's a visceral pain, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so crucial we understand not just what's happening, but why. Okay, so let's shift from that personal devastation, which is incredibly important to acknowledge, and try to dissect the systemic roots. Beyond maybe individual exploitation, how does the actual design of these legal systems, even if well-intentioned, create the conditions for these kinds of outcomes? What are the systemic weaknesses?
That's such a critical distinction. Because yes, individual exploitation absolutely happens. People, men or women, can misuse legal provisions, but we need to look at the systemic weaknesses that, allow that to happen or even encourage it sometimes.
Right.
And what's fascinating here is how these loopholes actually show up. You see things like quick rich schemes. Yeah, where someone might enter a marriage, maybe a short one, specifically aiming to trigger asset division in a divorce.
Okay.
Then you have exaggerated claims. People fabricating their needs or downplaying their own income or assets to get a bigger settlement. And often it's the system gaps, lawyers who might be corrupt or just courts that are so overburdened they can't scrutinize claims properly. That allows unjust outcomes.
So the system itself can fail.
Definitely. And you also have cultural nuances. In societies where maybe male wealth is tied heavily to status, targeting assets can become a powerful way to retaliate or seek what's perceived as like payment for wrongs in the marriage.
It really does sound like a perfect storm. And why is this particularly acute, as you mentioned, in many African countries? What makes it worse there?
It's genuinely a collision of several major factors. First off, these incredibly complex legal hybrid systems.
Hybrid systems.
Yes, many countries are juggling customary law based on local traditions, religious law, like Sharia or canon law, and then imported Western-style civil law.
Wow, that sounds confusing.
It is. Imagine different courts or even different communities within the same country interpreting property rights completely differently. It creates massive confusion, loopholes,
And inconsistency.
huge inconsistency. It makes predictable, fair application almost impossible.
Can you give an example, like how does that clash play out in a real divorce case?
Sure. Okay, so one court, maybe following civil law principles, might only recognize assets acquired during the marriage as joint property.
Right.
But another court, perhaps applying customary practice, might award a woman a share of her husband's family land or property he owned before the marriage, even if she didn't directly contribute to getting it.
So you could get wildly different results depending on where the case is heard.
Exactly. That inconsistency creates fertile ground for exploitation. Parties might try to forum shop, look for the court or legal system that's likely to give them the best outcome.
I see.
And layered on top of that, you have immense economic pressures, high unemployment, poverty. These can create strong incentives to seek financial security through divorce settlements. And it's important to remember, societal structures often mean women have fewer independent economic opportunities. So for some, a settlement is a genuine lifeline. For others, well, it can become a target.
That makes sense. Desperation on one side, opportunity for exploitation on the other. And I guess the courts themselves might struggle with all this complexity.
Precisely. Weak legal infrastructure is a massive factor. Courts are often under-resourced, processes are slow, and yes, sometimes there's outright corruption.
Corruption, too.
It happens. A wealthier person, man or woman, with better lawyers might be able to exploit a slow, underfunded system. Outcomes can sometimes be swayed by bribes, family connections, or just lingering biases, like the idea that men are always the providers and can just bounce back from anything. And finally, there's this tension between shifting gender norms and the reality on the ground. Laws might be changing to promote equality, but deep-rooted patriarchy often persists. So some men feel attacked when traditional power dynamics shift. They might see any award to a woman as unfair exploitation, even if it's legally justifiable support.
And the flip side.
The flip side is some women might see asset claims as sort of overdue compensation for years of unpaid domestic work or raising children.
It's incredibly complex, but let's go back to that core principle, joint contribution in marriage. It sounds fair on paper.
It is sound in principle.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. How does something that sounds fair get so twisted in practice to create these devastating outcomes?
That's the crux of it. The principle itself that marriage is an economic partnership, both spouses contribute, financially or otherwise, that's logical. A stay-at-home spouse enables the other to earn, for instance.
Right.
The distortion happens in the application, how it gets misapplied.
Okay, like how?
Well, a big one is that premarital assets often aren't protected properly. The law needs to clearly distinguish and shield assets someone owned before the marriage, unless, they were explicitly mixed together or gifted during the marriage.
And if it doesn't?
Then you get that painful reality. A house he bought at 30, gone at 45 after a 10-year marriage. That feels like theft, and frankly, often it is, effectively.
Yeah, I can see that.
Then there's how contributions are weighed, especially in shorter marriages. If a marriage only lasts a few years, but results in a massive transfer of wealth that one person built up entirely beforehand, well, that partnership argument starts to feel pretty thin.
It sounds less like sharing and more like...
Like an acquisition, yes.
Okay.
And another huge issue is maintenance or spousal support. Often it's intended to be temporary, rehabilitative, just help to get someone back on their feet, become self-sufficient again.
Right, like job training or finishing a degree.
Exactly. But sometimes these awards become lifelong subsidies. They just keep draining the other person's future earnings indefinitely.
So one person is stuck rebuilding from zero.
While the other potentially consolidates wealth built before or during the marriage. It creates this profound imbalance and feeling of injustice.
It really makes you question how laws with good intentions can go so wrong.
Yeah.
So if just scrapping spousal support isn't the answer, because that would hurt genuinely vulnerable people.
Right, and returning to purely traditional systems often just reinforces old inequalities.
Then what kind of reforms could actually bring fairness and dignity? What would that look like?
Well, I think it's important to understand why some people might propose drastic measures, even if they are misguided. The frustration is real. So we need smart, targeted reforms that address those frustrations without, throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Okay, like what?
Firstly, we absolutely need to strengthen prenuptial and postnuptial agreements. Make them legally solid, easier to access, and this is crucial, culturally destigmatize them. Let couples define their own terms more easily.
Make it normal, not suspicious.
Exactly. Secondly, legislation has to explicitly define and protect premarital assets. The default should be, unless you clearly gifted it or invested it jointly during the marriage, what was yours before stays yours. Period. But that needs solid documentation and courts that enforce it.
Clear lines, we've got it.
Third, spousal support needs reform. The focus should be rehabilitative, time-limited, maybe, say, 2, 3, 5 years max, depending on the marriage length and circumstances. And it must be based on demonstrated need linked to the marriage, like sacrificing a career for the family.
So not just automatic.
No. Move away from open-ended or punitive awards. Exceptions could exist, of course, maybe for severe disability that arose during the marriage, but they should be rare.
Okay, what else?
Fourth, professionalize and properly resource the courts. That means better judicial training, faster case processing, actively fighting corruption, and ensuring both sides can get fair legal representation. Specialized family courts are vital.
And accountability.
Absolutely. Judicial accountability.
Yeah.
We should be auditing these controversial cases where one party, man or woman, was left completely destitute. Find out what went wrong.
Makes sense.
Fifth, and this is maybe the bigger picture, long-term solution. Promote genuine economic gender equality. Empower everyone, men and women, through education, jobs, fair wages. That reduces the economic desperation that can fuel predatory behavior and divorces.
Reduce the incentive, basically.
Right. 6, get tough on fraud. Implement real penalties for hiding assets, lying about needs, or clearly entering a marriage just for financial gain. Courts need to demand proof, not just take people at their word.
Proof is key.
Definitely. And finally, we have to acknowledge and address male vulnerability specifically, with concrete safeguards.
What kind of safeguards?
Things like emergency housing or shelters specifically for men facing homelessness after divorce. Targeted legal aid services focused on protecting men's assets from predatory claims. And crucially, mental health crisis intervention, recognizing that suicide risk is real and providing immediate support.
It's a comprehensive list.
Yeah.
But this whole issue gets framed so often as a gender war. It sounds like you're saying that framing misses the point entirely.
It absolutely misses the point. This should not be seen as a gender war. The real enemy here isn't men or women. It's exploitation. It's injustice. It's legal systems that are inadequate or failing.
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, protecting a man from having his premarital home taken doesn't automatically mean impoverishing a woman. Making spousal support temporary and focused on rehabilitation actually pushes the system to empower both people economically in the long run.
So it forces a different kind of solution.
Exactly. And this raises an important question. What does true equality actually look like in this context? It means nobody gets left without dignity. Nobody gets left in the ashes. Look, a woman who genuinely needs support after maybe a 20-year marriage where she raised the kids and sacrificed her career, she should absolutely get fair, rehabilitative support.
Of course.
But should a woman who targets a man's premarital business after just a 2-year marriage get half? Probably not. Justice has to be case-specific. It can't be based on gender tribalism.
So bringing this all together, what does this mean for you, our listener, who might be experiencing this or seeing it happen?
It means that pain, that frustration, that anger you might feel, it's valid, it's understandable.
Yeah.
Being left with essentially nothing while your ex-spouse keeps the tangible results of your labor, maybe your premarital labor, that is a terrible failure of a system that's supposed to deliver fairness. The fight isn't against women, it's against exploitation, it's against legal systems that are maybe too slow or under-resourced or don't adequately protect pre-existing rights. It's against a refusal to acknowledge that men, too, can be financially devastated by divorce.
We have to see both sides of vulnerability.
We absolutely do. We see you, those who feel like they're in the ashes. We have to build systems where divorce ends a partnership, yes, but it doesn't end a life.
Keep speaking out.
Yes, keep speaking out. Your voice, your story, it's crucial for driving change because truly no one deserves to be stripped of their dignity and left to rebuild from absolute scratch.
signed the license. Thought it was love's conclusion. Didn't know the fine print hid institutional. Landmines in the styles very under I do. Now the courtrooms, the trench in the place. If it's you, they speak best interest, but the math don't add right. Every compromise feels like surrender at night.
Your paycheck dissected a forensic incision, while your heart's on the docket of vague indecision.
He works too much, he's emotionally distant.
Become lethal ammo in the hands of an instant. Judge Bain the gavel of financial decree, taking half of tomorrow and all history.
Weaponized papers, ink sharper than knives, turn forever into financial lies. Kids in the crossfire, used as collateral pawns, while the system just shrugs.